Salvete omnes, and welcome to Caesar's Gallic Wars, Book 5, Section 35. When last we left Caesar, the Gauls were responding to the Roman tactics and getting a bit of the upper hand in the fight. And now we have, unfortunately, things are not going to go well for the Romans. But let us consider why Caesar decides to talk about some of the centurions and cotta in this way as we go through this passage. So let us begin. Quo praecepto ab eis diligentissime observato cum quaepiam cohors ex orbe excesserat, atque impetum facerat. Okay, so after this precept or order had been observed very carefully, diligentissime. Remember in Latin where you have that E on the end of a word, that the long E makes it the adverb diligentissime, so the superlative adverb. When this order was observed very carefully by them. So the ablative of agent that I'm talking about is this right here, ablative of personal agent. And then this ablative that I see here in blue is the ablative absolute. So when this order was perceived very diligently by them, cum quaepiam cohors, when any cohort had pluperfect, had gone out from the circle and had made an attack, impetum facerat, the enemy, here's our subject here, went back or fleed, velocissime. So there we go again with our issime, and remember it's a superlative adverb here. The enemy very quickly ran back or fled. Meanwhile, necesse erat, it was necessary for eam partem, for that part to be exposed, nudari, we have a passive infinitive here, to be exposed, and the for the weapons to be received, another passive infinitive, to be received from the unprotected side, So here we have, remember, I replaces the E in a passive infinitive, and sometimes the whole ERE that you would have in a third conjugation verb is replaced with an I. Rursus, again, cum in eam locum unde erat progressi reverti coeperat. Again, when they, meaning the Romans, had began to return into that place from where they had progressed, progressi erant. They had returned into eum locum, into that place from where they had returned. And they were surrounded, had gone out, and they were being surrounded by those ab eis who had given way, caesarant. Look at all these pluperfects we have here. Ramasarat attached to the third principal part. If you go back up here, excaeserat, fecerat. We had coeperant, right? So a little pluperfect there. Kesserant, another pluperfect. Steterant, another pluperfect. Remember, pluperfect translates best as had. They were surrounded by those, circumveni abantur, they were surrounded by those who had given way and by those who had stood proximi, nearby. But if, so this is going to start a conditional clause, this word seen, which is it translates as but if, but you can see the word see in there. See in Latin starts a conditional clause. But if, however, they only wanted to hold their position. So wellent here is in the conditional clause. You might remember this is an imperfect subjunctive, which is your infinitive, wola wella, plus your endings. And we have an imperfect subjunctive here in an if clause. If only they had wanted to hold, or they wanted to hold their position, there was no place, nec locus, was left behind for virtute, for courage. And because they were closely packed together, conferti, they were not able to avoid the spears having been thrown by tanta multitudina, by such great a number. Okay. However, tot in commodis conflictati, having been inflicted by so many tot misfortunes, comma, with multis vulneribus acceptis, a little ablative absolute here, with many wounds having been received, resistebant, they resisted, and magna parte die consumta, another ablative absolute, and with a great part of the day having been consumed, a magna parte of the day having been consumed, since since they were fighting, so a little impersonal here, impersonal passive, since they were fighting, since they were fighting from prima luca, from dawn or first light, up to the 8th hour, they engaged comitebat in nothing which was unworthy of them. They engaged in nothing which was unworthy of them. So, having been inflicted with by so many misfortunes and with so many wounds received, with a great part of the day consumed, etc., they engaged in nothing that was unworthy to them. And then we have a little bit of detail about a person that gets struck. Then, this is a dative of possession here, and we're actually getting our subject down here with each femur. And you might know what a femur is. A femur is part of your thigh, right? So then Titus Balventius's each thigh of Titus Balventius. So literally each thigh to Titus Balventius. Then each thigh of Titus Balventius, dative of possession there, who in the superiore anno in the previous year, little ablative of time there, had led the primum pilum, the primus pilus. And the primus pilus is the century of the first cohort. And he is described as a viro forti, a brave man, and one of great auctoritas, authority or prestige. And each thigh of this man is pierced by means of a tragula, by a spear, ablative of means there. Then he tells us about another man, Quintus Lacanius, of the Aistem ordinus, that's should be an orange there, of the same cohort, pugnans fortissime, fighting fortissime. There we go again with our E, and then the superlative adverb, fighting most bravely, while he is bringing help to his son, who is surrounded, is killed. So now we have another, again, example of valor. This man, Lucanius, who is fighting bravely, he brings help to his surrounded son, and he is killed in that process. So we have a couple of people, again, highlighted for the bravery in this fight against the enemy. And then we finally have L. Cotta, Lucius Cotta, the legate. And again, we have to go all the way down to our verb at the end. Lucius is wounded while encouraging Lucius. So he is encouraging, Lucius Cotta, the legate, is encouraging all the cohorts and ranks. And he is wounded in adversum os, directly in the face, by means of a funda, by means of a slingshot. So again, we're including great details here of two senior centurions, as well as what happens to Cotta. And you might want to think about, why would Caesar be explaining this or telling us these specifics about the battle at the end of this story. And we'll see again what happens next after we finish this situation. So we have a couple of people wounded. The soldiers are fighting back, but things are not going well for the Romans. So until 5.36, Walete.